This is episode 8 of the Rusted Robot 2D Unity 5 tutorial series. The last episode we worked on the UI, the menu system, which allows us to pause and quit and then play again. You may have noticed this error here. This is with our input script registering the horizontal axis name multiple times. We won't be able to move because of this error. So let's modify the script in standard assets, cross-platform input, scripts, and open up the virtual input script. Make sure you're on the correct tab for the right script. Navigate down to where it registers the name of the access. You'll see the check for the access name, and when it's already detected, it shows that error that we saw. But instead of just showing the error, let's actually unregister it so we can use it again. We do that with cross-platform input manager dot unregister virtual axis. Then we pass in the name, which was axis.name. We don't need this else anymore. Since we're unregistering, we can go ahead and register a new name. Fix the indentation here. So yeah, we go to register the axis name, we check that it already exists, then we unregister it, then we can add the new axis with the same name now. We won't get that error anymore. File, save all. Just go ahead and convert the line endings and close out mono to check that it actually fixed the problem. You have to quit, then play, and it no longer has the duplicate access name, so we can move. Now let's work on something a little more fun. We're going to introduce an enemy to the game. We don't have a lot of prefabs to choose from, so go to 2D, prefabs, and drag in another copy of the character robot boy. Just place it in the level anywhere, play, and then pause. We just want to grab the Y position here. Unplay. Paste it in there, just so that he's on the same level as our character. Rename him to enemy. We need to remove the scripts that control him via the joystick. That's the platformer 2D user control script and the platform character 2D script. We're going to add a new script in a bit to control him automatically with some AI. But first, let's create another Animator Controller specifically for our enemy. In the standard assets 2D animator, right click, create Animator Controller. Let's name this 2D enemy animator. Click your enemy again. Find the animator component we already have here and drag in the new animator. Double click it to open up the animator window. Right click, create state empty. Click that new state. We'll name this new animation state crouch walking, and we'll use the existing crouching animation. So select motion, and it's robot boy crouching walk. Make sure not to select robot boy crouch. That's just a single frame, not an animation. Now we want to create a new animation, so go to Window, Animation. We can drag this tab next to the Animator tab to make it a little easier. And make sure you select the enemy. Then find this little button here and go Create New Clip. We want to save the animation in the animation folder, so go back to 2D and select Animations. And we'll save it as Enemy Attack. Now we need to put the keyframes into this new animation. So go to the Standard Assets 2D Sprites, Robot Boy Roll Sprite. We need to select each one of these sprites. So start at the top, scroll down, shift click the last one, drag all these over here to our animation, and we can play this and you'll see the enemy rolling. That will be his attack. It's a little fast, so let's change the sample rate to 24. And you play it again and it will look a little better. There's one other thing that we need to do for this sprite sheet to make it look even better, and that is to change the max size. So go back to the sprite sheet, the top here, the group, click this, and then you have to click the inspector tab, and then the max size right here, change this to 2048 and hit apply. That should up our graphics just a bit. Now that we have our new animation, go back to the Animator tab, select Parameters, and we're going to create a new parameter, make it a float, and name it Distance. And we're going to use this to transition from the crouch walking to the attack state. Creating the enemy attack animation automatically created the new state for the animator. So we just need to make the transition now. So right click on crouch walk, make transition, and then select the new enemy attack state. You can move it down if you want to visualize it a little better. Click that transition, add a new condition. It's going to use our new distance parameter. It will be set to greater than, but we want to change that to less than 2. And unclick has exit. Now we need to do the opposite transition. Right click enemy attack, make transition, select crouch walk, select the transition, make a new condition. This one is going to use distance parameter as well, but it's going to be greater than 2. The way that we have this set up, the enemy will automatically go to the crouch walk animation on entry, and then when the distance parameter is less than 2, he'll transition to the enemy attack animation. But when we play, you'll see that the distance is always 0, so he immediately goes to enemy attack, and then he never changes. He also doesn't follow the player. So we're going to handle all of that in a script. So let's add this script to the enemy. Go to Add Component, scroll down to New Script, name it CS Enemy AI. It's going to be C#, and create and add. Double click to open up in mono. So let's set up a few variables here. We need a public one, a transform. We'll name it target. And this will be the target that the enemy chases, our player. Private float m_distance to player. Obviously the distance between the player and the enemy. Private animator m_anim. We'll store our new animator here. Private rigid body 2D m_rigid body 2D. We'll store our enemy's rigid body here. Private float m_max speed. We'll set it to 5F for now. Private vector 2 m_run right. Private vector 2 m_run left. Private vector 2 m_stop. And these will be used for moving our enemy. Private bool m_facing right equals true by default. Let's do some setup in private void awake. Let's add a comment here. Setting up references. First one we'll set up is the anim get component animator and the rigid body 2D. That one is get component rigid body 2D. These will get the two components that are already attached to our enemy. We'll initialize our vectors in our start method here. So the first one, m_run right equals new vector 2. And we'll set it to the max speed, m_max speed, and 0. Same thing for left, except we'll do negative max speed. m_stop equals new vector 2 0 0. On to the update method now. Add a little comment here. Find distance from enemy X position to player X position. So this is the m_distance to player variable. And we'll set it by doing target.position.x, which is our player, minus transform.position.x, which is the enemy position. Now we always want the enemy to face the player, so let's do a check here. Little comment. If left of the player and facing left, you're going to want to turn and face right. So how do we check that? If m_distance to player is greater than 0, that means you're to the left. And if not m_facing right, that means you're facing left. Then you better flip, so you'll be facing right. And we'll create this flip function later. So if that's not the case, else if m_distance to player is less than 0, so you're to the right of the player, and m_facing right, so you are facing right, if right of the player and facing right, face left. And then call flip again, which will flip you from right to left. The last thing we'll handle in the update is moving the enemy towards the player. We need to check the distance to the player. If m_distance to the player is less than -1, so this means if right of the player more than 1. Run left. m_rigid body 2D dot velocity equals m_run left. Else, if m_distance to player is greater than 1f, this is checking if left of the player more than 1f. Run right. And we do this by doing m underscore rigid body 2D dot velocity equals m underscore run right, as we defined earlier. The last check, if it's neither one to the left or one to the right, that means you're too close to the player to be running, so just stop. M underscore rigid body 2D dot velocity equals M underscore stop. So we're calculating the distance to player in the update method, but we still need to send that value to the animator. So we'll use private void fixed update, and we'll use the reference that we have to our animator, M underscore anim. We'll set float for the distance parameter, and we'll get the absolute value mathf.abs of the m underscore distance to player. So it doesn't matter if it's to the left or the right, we just want to know the total distance. Lastly, we're going to declare the private void flip method that we called earlier. First, we'll set the flag. So if it says he's facing right, we're going to flip it so he's facing left, and vice versa. And we do that by doing m facing right equals not m underscore facing right. To do the actual flipping of the sprite, I'll use some code from a standard asset script. Vector3 the scale equals transform dot local scale the scale dot x times equals -1. So we're flipping the sprite over the x-axis. Transform dot local scale equals the scale. That's our script, so save this. Close mono. You'll see the script on the enemy here, update. Now we have a target that we need to fill in. Just drag the player into the target field. Now the enemy will chase the player. Let's give it a try. First thing we see that the enemy is animating. We can run away. You start to see errors pop up here down on the bottom when the enemy walks over the resources. Let's address that issue real quick. Need to open up our scripts for the resources. We'll start with CS mineral trigger, but we'll have to do the gas as well. Make sure you're in the CS mineral script. Go to the bottom here where the trigger is. Let's do a check. If other.tag equals player, then we can do this call here to tick up the mineral counts, instead of trying to do it on every object that passes over the trigger. So we'll just copy this and we'll open up the gas trigger, paste it in there. It's going to be the same check. Make sure you save both of these. Click your enemy. You'll see he is set to the player tag right now. We want to add a new tag. Name it enemy. Click the enemy again. Select the drop down. You'll see the tag for enemy. Select that. If I play this again, you'll see the enemy pass over the triggers. And no more errors. Look at the animations. He's crawling and then he'll do his attack roll when he gets closer. And that's our enemy. Alright, thanks for taking the time to watch. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next.